Good Sunday afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Laura Hutchinson. Homelessness continues to be a problem nationwide and especially here in Massachusetts. For several years now, 22 News has been following the situation of families living in hotels. Today on 22 News in Focus, we'll find out why the number of homeless children in particular is on the rise and what the state is doing to curb homelessness. Then later, there are homeless shelters in western Massachusetts, but today we'll hear from one that's different from the rest, working to get women and children in particular back on their feet. But first, joining me to talk about programs to help homeless families, we have Lauren Voyer with us, Senior Vice President of Housing Support Services for HAP Housing. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for asking me.
So nice to have you on the program. Now, I know that new numbers indicate that 1 in 30 children in the United States are homeless. That is huge. Those numbers are staggering. Is that the situation in western Massachusetts as well? What are you seeing here?
Well, Laura, it's actually a nationwide problem. It's not just Springfield, it's not just Massachusetts, it's across the country where homelessness amongst families has been on the rise. In Massachusetts, because the state does not turn away any family who's eligible for shelter, the numbers often appear higher than other places in the country because each year there's a point in time count, and what that does is count the families who are in shelters and perhaps living in motels, other programs, and it tries to get to those that are maybe on the street or living in cars, but it's hard to really assess that. So because we have a large shelter system, the numbers of families we're able to count is higher.
Okay, so is that why our numbers appear to be going up? Are there more people becoming homeless, or is this simply people moving in from other states to come to us?
There is a portion of the population that comes from other states, but actually since the beginning of July, when FY15 began, we had additional funds to work with to place families. The state began to open up more units out in the eastern part of the state because for a period of time people had to come here because there was no other shelter space available for them. So the state's done a good job of getting them back out to the eastern part of the state while we've been increasing shelter capacity locally as well. So we've been able to take even more families from the motels into shelters. So there's really been in Western Mass region, there's been a 30% decrease in the motel numbers from a high of around 500 to now around 347, and we're really working hard to continue to decrease those numbers.
So why children in particular, though, when we're hearing about these, are people without kids easier to place? What is it? Why are you hearing about so many homeless kids? And I know Governor-elect Charlie Baker was just in Holyoke because the Holyoke schools have a number of homeless kids as well right now. What's going on?
Well, the single shelter system operates differently, and there are some reasons why it's easier to house an individual. I think it's somewhat obvious that Housing First works well for individuals because they can go into a unit and have wraparound services attached, and it's just focused on that one person. When you have a family, it's not as easy to implement all of those things by getting them into housing initially. There's all kinds of income factors that you have to take in consideration when you have to support a family. And also, we find that families, often the head of household, needs more time to be able to gain the skills that they need to really be able to stabilize their housing. The demographics, the most significant percentage of the folks we work with are single moms, 18 to 24. They have often had no work history, no housing history. They don't have references. They need to get a GED. They may need to get ESOL so their language skills increase. So there's a lot of barriers for families, and then the children have their own needs in terms of services. So we generally, when we look at our census, we think of about 1 adult to 2.5 kids. So the numbers add up quickly when you consider, and the system was set up to protect children. The system was set up by the Department of Transitional Assistance, many years ago to help children, to make sure children had a roof over their heads and they were safe.
So what options are available? It's interesting that you say that some people lack the skills to move out, because I know that we're going to hear from one today that works hard to help people get back on their feet. So that will be interesting to hear from that later after hearing you say this. What other options do people have, though? If somebody is on the brink of homelessness, what do you do?
Well, there's a couple of places they can access assistance. One is at HAP. Our offices are 322 Main Street in Springfield. We have a Housing Consumer Education Center there, often referred to as HCEC. And what we offer there is information for folks that on tenancy preservation. How can you take care of the issues that you're confronting in your housing if you're on the verge of being evicted, if you have utility arrears, or if you have landlord-tenant issues. We can help you, advise you of your rights. So we do have walk-in hours on Monday through Thursday from 9 to 12. And what we try to do then is to assist people to get a better handle on what resources are available to them.
I know one thing that we hear is that the waiting list to get into some of these places is very long, years long?
It's incredibly long, yes.
How long are people waiting to get in? And why is that? What can we do?
So, well, the issue with the long waiting lists is that the federal government has not increased. In fact, they've decreased the number of units that are available through the Section 8 program over since the 80s. The numbers have really gone down of available units. So people apply and they don't get a voucher unless someone else leaves the program. So at HAP, we have 25,000 families that are on our Section 8 waiting list.
Wow.
That's just HAP. Springfield Housing Authority has their own waiting list. Holyoke Housing Authority has their own waiting list.
And there is a plan to get these lists moving.
Well, the plan, really, the state has stepped in, and they have increased the number of Massachusetts rental vouchers available, MRVPs. So in the past 2 years, there's been 2,000 MRVPs issued throughout the state, and we have benefited from some of that in Western Mass. Most recently, they opened up the waiting list. We got 58 vouchers. We had 6,900 people apply. Wow. So these numbers demonstrate the need and the fact that there just isn't enough housing available where rents are within reach of what families can afford. The minimum wage is a part of the problem. The unemployment rate is a part of the problem. The economy.
There is a lot
So
factoring
there are a
into
lot
this,
of
for
factors
sure. Yeah.
that affect people's ability to be stably housed.
Lauren Voyer with HAP Housing, thank you so much for coming on and talking about the situation. We luckily are going to hear from someone who also is trying to help get some of these homeless families off the street, but thank you for being here as well. After the break, we'll talk to the director of a new shelter for families. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Stay with us. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about the rise in homelessness in the region. We were just talking to someone from HAP Housing in Springfield about what's being done to curb homelessness here locally. Joining me now, we have Shannon Mumblow from Christina's House, a shelter for women and children located in Springfield. Now, this is something many people might not have heard of before. Tell us about Christina's House.
Christina's House, we actually started in 2012. We had no money. And part of what I had come to realize was that I really wanted to help, and part of helping was helping to raise money. And we raised enough money in the last 2 years to purchase our first home in February, which is located at 38 Madison Avenue, right next to Head Start. And it's just a beautiful Victorian home. We wanted a home that would be just that would feel like a home for the women and children who lived there, and so provides us 6 rooms for 6 families in the house, and as well as a first floor for the missionary family that lives there right now.
So how many families do you have living in there right now?
Currently we have 2 families. We are still in the process of renovating some of the things in the home, like de-letting, and we're going to be starting on the roof soon as well. So we had to get it to a place where it was livable and safe for the women and children, and so right now we have 2 women and 2 children there, and we will be interviewing some more families soon.
So who exactly are you looking for? You know, say these 2 women and 2 children that you have, what was it that you were looking for? How are you working to get them back on their feet?
Right. So there are certain criteria at Christina's House to be able to get in. They can't currently be in a situation where there's domestic violence or current alcohol or substance abuse. But we're taking children right now that are 5 years of age and older just because of the lead situation, and we're almost complete with that. So once that's done, we'll be able to take the gamut of ages. But what makes us unique is the ability to provide some of those wraparound services that you heard about before. So we do have counselors. The 12-year-old boy that lives with us now, he has tutoring 5 days a week for him. We have some child care, and we're looking at some people to fill in the gaps with some of the child care right now. But basically, we are meeting the needs of each specific woman and child. So as they come in, we are assessing their needs and filling those gaps as they arise, and helping them to save money so that at the end of their stay at Christina's house, they can go out and they won't need to have they'll be able to have their own apartment and be able to afford it without needing any government assistance.
Now, is there a time limit for how long people can stay at Christina's house? How does that work?
Yep, that's a great question, one we get asked a lot. So their stay might be as short as a few months or as long as a couple of years, or maybe even a bit longer. But we've estimated about 2 years, which gives them time to transition, get themselves back on their feet, learn how to budget, maybe get into a school. One of the women now got her CNA license back and wants to go back into a nursing program, and you'll talk to her in a little bit. But get them into jobs that are secure, help them save their money, get their resumes, just build the skills that they need to really go out there and do what they need to do, or maybe didn't have the confidence to do before they came to live with us.
And what made you target the women and children? I was shocked to see the number of children who are homeless on the rise. What made you target that? Did you see the need there?
We absolutely saw the need. My mother-in-law is the president and founder of Christina's House, and we had been going to a church a while back and saw a lot of the men from the Springfield Rescue Mission at church, and the support that they got from being there, and the hope that they got from the church community. But we were wondering, where are the women and the kids? And I also have a social work background, so I knew how dire the need was, especially in our area. And like she said earlier, the need for children, especially in the homeless, 1 in 30, it's staggering.
It's so much.
Yeah.
And now my understanding is that you are being presented with a check from the Springfield Ride to Remember. People may not realize that some of the proceeds of that, and this is happening this weekend. Tell me about this.
Yeah, a couple years ago now, we had met with Carla Ambrose and her family, and we wanted to memorialize a room at Christina's house for Officer Kevin Ambrose. And so in doing that, we met with the police department as well, and the friendship and just what has grown in that is part of what happened with the Ride to Remember. They are just so fond of what we're doing at Christina's house, and they're so involved in it that they did take the portion of the rider's fee for the Ride to Remember, and that will be presented to us at our second annual ball this Saturday at the Marriott.
Very good. Well, that is great for you that you you've been able to raise this money and buy a house. And my understanding is that you ultimately would like to expand someday as well, right?
Yes.
Right now you have one house.
Yes. Our goal is to, like I said, we purchased the home in February, so we just want to get it up and running like a well-oiled machine, and then expand upon that, because obviously there's a great need. We only have 6 rooms, and we want to help others. We want to help as many people as we can, but we are privately funded, so we don't get any state or government funds. So everything we do is through public support right now.
So I will, we'll obviously have a link to Christina's house on our website as well. If people want to learn more. What can people do if they either want to help you out? Do you need volunteers? Is it more financial support? And what if someone's watching this thinking, hey, I would like to live there? What do you do?
Our website is very easy to navigate, so you can go to www.christinashouse.org and you can contact us, and we will get back to you whether you want to volunteer. There's a way for you to donate online as well. And so, yeah, and if there are women and children out there that are in need of a place to stay, we would love to hear from them too.
Okay, well, there are a lot of people who fit that description of
Yes.
people who are needing to get off the street. And in fact, we're going to hear from a woman who Christina's House, she's been a part of Christina's House, so this is going to be great. We'll have one woman's story about dealing with homelessness after the break. Stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Today we've been talking about homelessness in our region. Earlier we heard from someone about HAP housing and resources available to help families. We're talking now with Shannon Mumblow about a new shelter in Springfield working to expand and get more families off the street. And joining us now as well is someone who has been homeless and is being helped by Christina's House right now. This is April Green joining us. April, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, how are you?
So tell us your story. My understanding is you're living at Christina's House right now. How did you get connected with Christina's House?
Actually, I got connected through one of my son's special ed teachers at school. Keon had happened to mention to her about our situation, and she is the one that got in contact with Christina's House for me and gave me the numbers and stuff, so that's how I got.
So tell us your story. How did you end up homeless? How long have you been homeless? How did you get to this point?
Well, actually, it was like a string of things. I mean, I was working, and then my car broke down, so then I wasn't able to get to work, so then I didn't have a job. So it was just like a string of things, and then so got behind on the bills, and then eventually I couldn't afford to pay the rent and everything else, so it was just like a string of things that happened.
You know, and that's something that a lot of people can relate to, especially in this economy. All it takes is one thing, and to maybe even lose your job, and getting back on your feet is really difficult. So how do you pick up the pieces? You know, right now you're in a place where you are working a job and you are getting back on your feet. How does somebody start? What steps did you take?
Well, first I had to make the steps to find some place for me and my son to go where was safe before I can do anything else, because when you're homeless, you're in survival mode. You're trying to figure out what you're going to do, what you're going to eat, where you're going to sleep. So when I was in that situation, I couldn't do anything. So Christina's House has helped me get into a stable place where I don't have to worry about, okay, I have a roof over my head. Okay, I can eat. My son is safe. He can eat. So then I was able to look for a job again, get a job to start to get back on my feet. So those are the most basic things you need first before you can do anything else. So I guess that's what Christina's House is doing for me now, giving me that stable place and support and helping me get my life back together.
Good for you. You know, we've been hearing that the number of homeless children is on the rise. How difficult as a mom is it to be trying to get back to work, keep your child in school, as you said, put a meal in front of them? How difficult is that?
It's extremely difficult, but I mean, you make it work. As hard as it is, you just got to do what you got to do. You got to pick up those pieces and keep it moving. You can't I couldn't just give up because there was another life dependent on me. Like, you know, so if it was just me, it would have been easy. Okay, I can help myself, but when you got another child, another person that's dependent on you, you just got to do it.
And you've been in Christina's House for about 2 months now. And what is your plan? I guess what are they helping you work on right now to get back on your feet? And what is your own personal timeline? What are you thinking? If you have one.
I don't really have one, but they've helped me, like just being able to do a resume, put it online, fill out applications. Like they helped me with that. Like I couldn't do none of that stuff when I'm thinking about where am I going to sleep at night. Like, you know, I couldn't do that, so they're helping me with that. They helped me with that, so now I do have a job. So I work 40 hours a week, so that's going to give me, they're helping me save and budget and, you know, even things as simple as shopping. Like I didn't know how to do that. Like I was just buying anything and everything and anything that was cheap, so like, you know, so just as simple things as going grocery shopping and budgeting for that, like, you know, so.
When you have your basic needs met, you can really focus on figuring all of these other things out, as you were saying, building a resume. You know, it's very difficult. Good for you. I'm so happy to hear that you're doing so well.
Thank you.
And I know that there are very specific needs that people there may have. How can we target, you know, if somebody is here listening to April and hearing about her son, how do you donate and help out what these families need specifically?
Well, like I said, we have a needs list on our website, but more updated lists I actually tend to put out on Facebook, facebook.com/christinashouse.org. We have a 12-year-old boy at the house right now, April's son, that is in need of some uniforms for school. So I'm going to be putting something out about that later today. So needs list, we are always in need of non-perishable food items and clothes, but I try to keep our needs list on the website updated, and like I said, monetary donations, which then help us go out and purchase the things that we end up needing from day to day.
And what do you think, when do you think that you're going to be taking more people on? I know that you said that you're doing some work there right now. How can people find out when they might be eligible for something like this?
Well, right now we are definitely taking one more candidate at Christina's house. And then over the next few months, I think we have about 18 more windows that we need to be completing in the next few months. So really, we want to, the season is cold, we want to fill the house right now. We want to get people off the streets as quickly as we can. So the more people we have coming in to volunteer and help, the more hands, the quicker that'll happen. So.
And April, just feels so nice to be in such a warm environment in the winter time and have this opportunity. What do you say to people, like Shannon, who are working with these organizations?
I'm extremely grateful, because without them, I don't know where I would have been. So I'm grateful for everything.
It is so nice to hear from you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience with us. I would imagine there are people at home who can relate to you, and it's just nice to hear about some of these other organizations going on as well. Shannon, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this. It's a great shelter that you have happening there in Springfield, and I hope to see you expanding as well.
Yeah,
thank you so much. And we will have the last word for you after the break. Stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Today we've been discussing homelessness in our region. We've heard from people who are working to end homelessness and help people get back on their feet. We also spoke to a woman who has been struggling with being homeless and is making strides to find stability and a permanent place to call home. That is our program for today. We want to thank all of our guests for joining us. We want to thank you at home for watching. We hope you heard something that you find helpful. And if you've missed any of it, you can watch it in full on our website at wwlp.com. From all of us here at 22 News, we wish you a wonderful Sunday. Take care.